Nothing seems to divide wrestling fans as much as the WWE Hall of Fame, and really, it depends how you look at it. On one end, it can be seen as allowing performers who have given their lives for pro wrestling the due they deserve, and on the other, is treating it as a true place for the best of the best. Personally, I think it's just a nice event for both fans and performers, but what do I know? Nothing. Each year after the ceremony, we're usually throwing our hands in the air saying, how was this person not inducted? And I imagine that will go on forever. I mean, why would it change? But it does also allow us to be very speculative when it comes to the Hall of Fame class, and damn it, that's what we're going to do right now. Given recent events of time of recording too, I think it would be very apt of WWE to give Matt Cappotelli the Warrior Award next year. The man's story is as inspiring as it is tragic. He was a hero. Either way, I'm Simon from WhatCulture, and this is 10 early predictions for the 2019 WWE Hall of Fame class. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to stay notified. Ding, ding, done. Number 10, Kenta Kobashi. WWE's legacy wing is exactly what it sounds like. If you haven't been in the company but are clearly an incredible talent, you potentially could get in via this means. That's why Kenta Kobashi absolutely deserves to be inducted with that in mind. In short, Kobashi was outstanding, and many people say he's the best ever. Not one of, or in the conversation, the number one. And that is some praise. A career babyface, the Japanese superstar was pure fire and was so engaging he was able to stay over for decades through several agonizing high-profile losses. Each one riled his fan base up even more, and the man was as skilled as anybody else you're likely to see. Once Kobashi won Top Gold 2, his transition was perfect. He rewarded belief with a mythical 2-year reign and was a huge draw throughout it. If nothing else, go and watch any of his matches and try and figure out how he's still alive. Beautifully brutal is the best term I can think of. Kenta was pure money. Number 9, Ray Stevens. Ray Stevens was so popular at the Cow Palace that he outdrew Elvis Presley. Just think about that. Did it matter that a dude with slick back hair that went, was coming to town? More people wanted to see Stevens in the 60s, and he was entrenched in the scene back then. He was a trendsetter as well, because even if you never watched an actual Ray Stevens match, you've seen his work. Famed for his innovation, Stevens is credited for changing pro wrestling with his high-flying arsenal and big bumping style that inspired the very DNA of modern wrestling in a general sense, and even the Ric Flair flop. This is all thanks to Ray. He would use ladders, throw out the rulebook, and in many ways was wrestling's first cool heel. For example, a survey in the area in 1962 to find the most hated and popular figure in the region had only one name for both categories, and you guessed it, the man was Ray Stevens. It's a shame more of his matches aren't overly accessible, but his stamp on pro wrestling will never go away. Just too good, so put him in the damn Hall of Fame. Number 8, The Crusher. In many ways, you could say that the likes of the Sandman, Steve Austin and Roman Reigns are all part of the Crusher's lineage. Why? Because he created the beer-swilling working-class hero archetype, a role he both played and lived, having worked as a bricklayer and meat packer to support his income before he made it big. He did just that by adopting this everyman persona, and it's also said he was something of an inspiration for Ric Flair, given that he often promised to have a party and take all the dollies down Wisconsin Avenue and go dancing. A star for decades, his appeal glows through a touching YouTube tribute video you can watch right now, where he struggles to say the word humiliate. It doesn't even come off badly though, because of how he holds himself. The Crusher just got it, and he made a huge splash in this industry that we love. Number 7, the New Age Outlaws. At one point in time, this would have been unthinkable, but it's fair to say the New Age Outlaws were a perfect act for the time and place. You could argue that outside of their most successful year, that probably being 1998, there were some low points. I mean, neither made it as single stars, for example. But the fact we're still talking about them right now sums it up. They were a pivotal part of the Attitude Era. And that's because when they were hot, they were like molten lava and had moments that stood the test of time. Remember when the pair hurled Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie off the stage ahead of a quality brawl at WrestleMania 14? It brought the world to a stop at the time, which was doubly impressive, as it did feature Terry Funk running around with tights on his head. That was his idea, by the way, and who says Funk got hit in the head too many times with a chair? Billy is back in the fold following his release in 2015 from NXT. He appeared at Raw 25 earlier this year, so any bad blood has long since vanished, which means they can go in the Hall of Fame next year. Number 6, Michelle McCool. I will say that WWE's treatment of women in the Hall of Fame is ridiculous. More often than not, like they do on Raw, they treat it as its own segment rather than just having everything merge into one. But whatever, the point is that's how things go down, and come 2019, WWE will probably only put one woman in the Hall of Fame. And if that is going to happen, I don't think Michelle McCool is the worst choice when you take a step back in time to the Diva years. We can debate the division until we're blue in the face, but the truth is, when all this nonsense was going on, McCool was better than most of her peers. peers. At Night of Champions 2009, she bested Melina in one of the scene's better efforts and managed to wrestle a match as dramatic and violent as her male counterparts. That's doubly hard given what was the remit at the time, and seeing barricade DDTs on top of a brutal spot, which looked like it hurt, where McCool knocked a split-legged Melina from the apron to the floor with a baseball slide. And you know it must have been quite good too, because there was a rumour at the time that they got told off by road agents because it was, and this is an alleged quote, too good for girls. So put her in ice, eh? She made her impact. Number 5, Vader. Vader was such an amazing and influential pro wrestler that his inclusion in the Hall of Fame is inevitable. And the only real shame is that it didn't happen before he sadly passed away earlier this year. Wowing and terrifying fans in equal measure across the world, Vader was ahead of his time by being an absurdly agile monster with an in-ring game so stiff, scared everybody. He pummeled Sting, Ric Flair and Cactus Jack in grisly, awe-inspiring WCW bouts in the States, while also being a major draw in Japan, having amassed the AGPW Triple Crown, IWGP Heavyweight and UWFI World Heavyweight Championships in front of tens and thousands of spectators. His reputation was so fierce that he scared the shit out of Shawn Michaels, who decided he didn't want to work with the Mastodon long term. As awful as it sounds to say, WWE does usually posthumously induct one wrestler a year, and 2019 should be Vader's time, which is quite ironic. But it just makes sense. Number 4, Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette is back in WWE's good books, which is amazing really. The man doesn't hold back, but he returned to induct the Rock and Roll Express last year and appeared on network shows such as Table for Three and Photo Shoot. It all seemed to go swimmingly, and that's just nice all round. Friends again. The real issue was always that Cornette may say something the company didn't like, such was his honesty and sharp tongue. But if that worry has now passed, he may have just got himself penciled in for 2019. And given he's considered one of the best managers ever, well, that just makes sense. There's more to that too, because from SMV to OVW to backstage at the WWE, Cornette was a major component of the creative process, including through 1997, when everyone thought the then World Wrestling Federation was firing on all cylinders. Regardless what you think of him today, Cornette was a pivotal figure in what we know and love. He deserves to be rewarded for it. Number 3, Hardcore Holly. Now that's a weird name to throw out there, right? But there are some reasons, and I'm going to run through them right now. The first is his autobiography, which I strongly suggest you read. Honest to a fault, Hardcore also has no problem just throwing insults at everyone and anyone, even when they come out of left field. Let me tell you, it's a proper treat. Secondly, just didn't care. On an episode of the Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard podcast, there was a story about how Holly got fed up with the Clique's actions in the mid-90s and then went and told Kevin Nash not to f*** with him. He then drew an X with his finger on Nash's chin and proclaimed, "That's where I'll knock you the f*** out." So as you can see, Hardcore Holly is amazing. Outside of that, he was also a fixture in WWE for years, surviving an awful gimmick as a racing driver to have a pretty good run as Hardcore Holly throughout the Attitude Era. He was involved in some fun weapons bouts throughout his time with the company and knew how to chop a man. Plus that drop kick. It's a thing of beauty, I tell you. He's not a Triple H guy, or that seems the way, given that at one point in a shoot interview, Holly told the game he can kiss his ass, but you never say never. You know what? I'd be alright with it. Number 2, Todd Plett. Yeah, I said it. It had to be said, somebody had to say it, and I'm going full on nostalgia here, and if WWE are happy to induct Hillbilly Jim, let's push that boat out all the way and get Todd Plett in there as well. A fixture of my wrestling watching as a child, it's fair to say that Todd was a bit of a goof, but he was so enthusiastic that you could never begrudge him of it. Serving as both backstage interviewer and host of several recap shows throughout the New Generation era, Pettingale's breezy disposition went some way towards brightening up a product that was struggling at the time. Hired by Vince McMahon almost immediately after he heard his boss take a massive and you should go and hunt that story down on the internet right now, he also just seems like a really nice dude. There's interviews out there, so why not, eh? Why the hell not? Number 1, JBL. Controversial, admittedly, but really there are only very few viable headliners left, provided WWE sticks to the idea of only honouring the non-active or formerly retired. Batista has one more run left in him, The Rock can't clear his calendar to find the time, Triple H isn't happening anytime soon, and all bets are off regarding The Undertaker. At this point, unless someone actually kills him, he may just keep wrestling forever, and if that is the case, he's not being inducted. Someone like Rob Van Dam is worthy of the headliner slot, but does WWE see him that way? That's a whole new debate. We're not going to have it now. John Bradshaw Layfield, though, is very popular with The Office and did have a lengthy, decorated and very divisive stint in WWE when for a while he was the face of SmackDown. You can also argue that everything which seemed to happen with Justin Roberts and Mauro Ranallo should prohibit JBL from this award, and you're probably right. But if we're being honest, that isn't going to matter. Sound the bullhorn.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe below, and if you're looking for more content like this, then try a few things that are floating about around my ears. It might be fun. I can't promise it though, but it might be.